New Zealand's first female Prime Minister, Dame Jenny Shipley, has been found liable for $6 million of damages for her role in the collapse of construction company Mainzeal 5 years ago. The High Court today found Dame Jenny and three other Mainzeal directors, Richard Yan, Peter Gom and Clive Tilby, had breached their directors' duties by allowing the company to trade while insolvent. Liquidators say Mainzeal owes its creditors at least $117 million. The judge ordered the four directors to pay damages totalling $36 million, with Dame Jenny, Mr Gom and Mr Tilby liable for a maximum of $6 million each, while Mr Yan bears joint liability for that $18 million, plus a further $18 million on his own. Isola Vineyards, a company associated with Mr Yan, was ordered to pay $2.16 million. It's believed Mr Yan is likely to appeal the Auckland High Court decision. Although BDO liquidator Andrew Bethel says he's thrilled with the judgment, will the liquidators appeal for more?
I think it's premature for me to comment too much. We will liaise with and take advice from our legal advisors on that. I would say that $36 million is less than what we asked for, but it is a substantial sum in the context of New Zealand reckless trading cases, and I think and it will allow some compensation to creditors, and that's what we're all about, getting some money back to creditors.
NBR Rich Lister and philanthropist Sir Stephen Tindall is to back fast-growing non-profit KiwiSaver provider Simplicity, as founder Sam Stubbs reduces his financial commitment. Simplicity, whose low-fee funds now have more than 21,500 members and $700 million under management, was founded by Mr Stubbs just over 3 years ago. It's understood Sir Stephen is to provide finance to Simplicity through his company K1W1, allowing repayment of the loans to Mr Stubbs, as well as capital to help Simplicity grow. Sir Stephen and Mr Stubbs declined to comment on their plans. Simplicity is owned by a charitable trust and reported a loss of $380,000 for the year to March 2018 from fee revenue of $997,000. According to new research, a net economic gain of $4.4 trillion a year by 2030 could be created by reducing dependence on scarce natural resources and allowing companies to generate revenue from waste. The study authors describe the process as a circular economy and say the building sector, for example, could reduce construction costs by 50% using industrial and modular processes. In the transport sector, car sharing, autonomous driving, electric vehicles and more sturdy materials could lower the cost of driving by 75%. Closer to home, a Sustainable Business Network report revealed Auckland could be $8.8 billion better off in 2030 if it had a circular economy. But what is a circular economy, really? NBR's Rawdon Christie spoke to AUT Senior Lecturer Jeff Seaton.
The circular economy works on the idea that there is no waste. So you try and get everything that you can back into the economy. So if you have a piece of steel, for example, that's left over, well, how can that be reused? How can it be recycled? And best of all, how can it be reduced in the first place?
A new report has warned the Provincial Growth Fund could become the think big of this generation, unless it makes changes to avoid the risk of wasting billions of dollars of taxpayers' money. The Maxim Institute report says there is plenty to like about the current model of the fund, but some things need to change. Its chief executive, Alex Penk, says there is a huge opportunity cost associated with the $3 billion fund. Every dollar spent on the fund is a dollar not spent on teachers' salaries, hospital upgrades or drugs that Pharmac could buy. Mr Penk acknowledges political interests might restrain what the coalition does, but he hopes it would put the best interests of the country ahead of any political interests of the parties that make up the government.
So we really want to make sure that we get this right rather than rush to a conclusion. And if we get this wrong, I've only got to say the words think big, and everybody knows exactly what that means. You think back to the Muldoon era and you think about an approach to economic development that actually just burned off public trust, burned public goodwill, and shut down policymakers' options for a generation. That's the kind of risk that we've got here if we do this wrong. Everybody's going to say, hey, we tried that, it didn't work, we're not going to go there again.
Well, result season continues today, with Mercury delivering a strong half-year result despite less favourable hydro conditions in its Waikato catchment. Operating earnings for the 6 months to December were $302 million, just short of the previous year's record of $304. However, net profit was down 21% to $104 million, largely because of a $37 million swing in the value of financial derivatives. Vista Group has reported a 26% profit rise to $12.2 million for the year to December 31, as uptake of its cinema services software continues to surge. Vista shares rose 10% on the news. Tourism Holdings reported a 23% drop in its first half net profit to $17.5 million, following lower vehicle sales in the US market and expected losses in its global TH2 digital joint venture. The tourism and campervan company also lowered guidance for its full-year net profit to $32 million from previous indications of a $32 to $34 million range. Powerlines company Vector's first half profit is up just over 5%, with revenue largely flat. The electricity, gas and telecommunications distributors' net profit was $83.3 million in the 6 months to December 31. That's up 5.4% in the same period a year earlier. And finally, honey processor Comvita announced a net loss of $2.7 million for the 6 months to December, compared to $3.7 million for the same period a year earlier. Revenue was $77.7 million, down from $83.6. And so to tomorrow, unions versus business. I speak to tax working group members Kirk and Bill Rosenberg on their differing views on the capital gains tax. So for more on that and other stories, just head to our website. Enjoy your evening.